RESPs, 529 plans, the new Trump accounts. Today we're going to talk about the best college savings plans for families that have lived in both the US and Canada. Hello, my name is Brian Haggard. I'm a certified financial planner, chartered financial analyst, and I'm the founder of RetireMitten Financial. We help simplify your cross-border retirement plan. And for many of our clients, they have kids or even grandkids that they want to help prepare and save for college for. But that's made difficult by the fact that maybe they're planning on moving back to Canada at some point. Maybe the kids are going to go to college up in Canada at some point. There's a lot of variables there. Today, we're going to talk about what's the best college savings plan for your situation. Let's start off by talking about a plan that we see quite often from new families that have recently moved down to the United States, and that's the Registered Education Savings Plan, or the RESP, which is a college savings plan up in Canada. It's the most common education savings plan up in Canada. However, unfortunately, it's not as beneficial for those families that have moved down to the US. The US considers these RESP accounts much like they consider tax-free savings account. They look at it as like it's a foreign trust. And as a result, that can cause some pretty significant tax headaches. First of all, if you have an RESP and you are a US resident, then you actually have to report that on your taxes every year. You have to report any growth that account has, and you'd have to file and pay taxes on that growth. And also you have to file separate paperwork declaring this to the United States government. And if you're getting your taxes done, that form alone may end up costing you hundreds of dollars per year. And so that may be okay if you're going to be in the US for a short period of time. May be okay to hold on to this RESP plan, knowing you're going to go back up to Canada and get the tax benefits of continuing to have an RESP. However, if you're planning on being in the US for a pretty significant period of time, if your kids are going to go to college here in the US, there's a good chance or probably a good reason to just get rid of this account. For a lot of our clients, what we see them do is actually transfer these accounts to family members or parents that are up in Canada so that they can still have that for their kids or grandkids, but they don't have to declare it on their taxes on a year by year basis. Now, the most common college savings plan here in the United States are 529 plans. Now, 529 plans are actually offered by, I believe, every single state. You don't have to buy the plan that's offered in your state, but many people do. For example, here in Michigan, I have a 529 plan for my son through the state. And the nice thing about 529 plans are some of the tax benefits that you get. It's a savings account that you don't get any tax benefits on the federal level, but many states, like us here in Michigan, we get a tax benefit on the state level. If we contribute up to $10,000 a year, we would end up saving $400 or $500 on state taxes. So it's not a gigantic benefit, but there is some benefit. 529 plans, how they work is they then grow tax free, and you can withdraw that money for either private school, if they're, pre-college, or college expenses as well. Now, these are great plans if you're thinking about staying in the US and your kids are also planning on going to a US college. It can be beneficial if they are going to college up in Canada, but not all Canadian colleges will accept 529 distributions. And the negative of 529 plans, though, are a couple things. One, they're pretty limited on what you could use them for. You have to use it for college expenses. If you wanted to buy a child a car at some point, any withdrawals from a 529 plan for that type of expense, all likelihood would result in both taxes as well as some penalties. So they are a little bit limited on what you can spend it on. Now, there is a night, and the other issue would be if your kid doesn't go to college or if they have no college expenses, you might have to take that money out and pay taxes or fees to get to it. Now, a nice new rule about 529 plans that made it a little bit nicer is that if your child doesn't go to college or if there's money left over in a 529 plan, you can now put that money in up to $35,000 into a Roth account for the child. That's a great way to kickstart their retirement, even if they don't go to college, or if they don't have a lot of college expenses. This is a really good plan. Now, if you're planning on moving back to Canada, or if your kids are planning to go to a Canadian school, I typically don't recommend my clients start 529 plans. 529 plans are great in the US, not so great if you go up to Canada because there's also some tax issues on 529 plans up in Canada. And if they go to a Canadian school, you might have to withdraw that money and not get any benefit from it. So if you're planning on staying here for the long term, it's a great account. If you're not, you may decide not the 529 plan is not the best plan for you. Another type of college savings account, or at least children's savings account, is a custodial account, also known as an UGMA or UTMA account. We also manage some of those accounts for our clients as well. And really what these are they are savings accounts. It's almost like having a brokerage account, an investable account that's in the name of the child now, but it gets turned over to the child at either age of 18 or 21, depending on the state that you're living in. The other nice thing about these accounts, though, differently than a broker, just a regular standard brokerage account, is there are some tax benefits. They typically get taxed at the children's tax rate, which is usually zero. However, if the income inside of the account is too high, it can trigger a kiddie tax, which could start to cause some taxation behind it. But typically, they're a little bit more tax favorable. The other nice thing about custodial accounts is that it's much more flexible than a 529 plan. You can take the money out for any reason at any time, as long as it's for the benefit of the child. Again, if you're looking to buy that car for your child, for your kid, no problem. A custodial account, you could take the money out, and as long as it's for the benefit of the child, you could get that money essentially tax-free and penalty-free. So those are the big benefits of the custodial accounts over a 529 plan. Now, the thing that tends to turn people off about the custodial accounts is that it automatically turns over to the child at a certain age, at either 18 or 21. At that point, in theory, the parents have no more discretion over those accounts. If your child turns 18 and they know about their custodial account, they could call up Schwab or Fidelity, take it all out and buy a new Corvette, whatever it is, right? So for that reason, sometimes parents get a little bit nervous about having these type of accounts. And for some, especially if they're smaller accounts, the tax benefits might not outweigh this concern, and they might end up opening just a regular brokerage account instead. Now we have to discuss the new Trump accounts that are coming out here in July of 2026. Now, these are really interesting accounts, and if you have a younger or about to have a child or have a younger children, it may be beneficial to at least take a look at, but it's not for everybody. First of all, in order to be able to make a contribution to these Trump accounts, the child must be a US citizen and they must be under the age of 18. So if your children aren't US citizens to begin with, this is really not a good account or not even a feasible account for them. What makes the Trump accounts, and yes, they are called Trump accounts, but what makes them somewhat interesting is for younger children, the government will contribute $1,000 into these accounts for every child born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. So again, if you have a young son, daughter, or if you're going to and they're a US citizen, it might make sense to take a look at it. Now, these are not college savings accounts. Honestly, I didn't even know what they were before I started doing research on them because they haven't came out yet. These are really retirement accounts. They actually are more like an IRA account than they are a college savings account. First of all, you're not able to take any money out of these accounts prior to age 18. And after age 18, the same rules apply to these as that would apply to an IRA account. If you take money out prior to age 59 and a half, you're going to have to pay taxes and penalties on these withdrawals in all likelihood. So you're not getting much benefit there. And unlike an IRA account, money that you put into the account, you don't get a tax deduction on these accounts either. So this is really not an education savings account, but if you do have a young son or daughter, or you're planning on having one, it's a good way to at least get their educate or their retirement plan started by putting this money away for them now, so that hopefully in 60 years from now, they're going to have something for retirement. Now, the last account that we're going to talk about today is just a standard brokerage account. It's a taxable investment and non-registered account for that people can open up. I have clients that will have many brokerage accounts. I have one client that has six separate brokerage accounts. Each one is in his name, but each one is earmarked for a different grandchild. And he puts money into those accounts on a year by year basis. And at some point, that money will go hopefully towards college for those kids. And why does he choose this route over other routes? And he's not alone. We have other clients that do it as well. Well, there's no tax benefits to these brokerage accounts, but there's a lot of flexibility. You can take money out of a brokerage account for any reason at any time, no matter what it's for. And typically there's going to be minimal to low taxes on any withdrawals that you might have to take from it, maybe no taxes on it. So that offers extreme flexibility. The negative bit behind that extreme flexibility is there's no tax benefits. There's no benefits of making those contributions in the first place. And you have to pay capital gains or dividends, interest taxes every single year if those accounts are growing for you. The other nice thing about this is if you move back to Canada, if your kids move back to Canada, it's not a problem. You can withdraw this money and move it to Canada. You can just transfer this money to a brokerage account up in Canada. And so if you're thinking about moving back to Canada, these plans actually offer a lot of flexibility. And unlike just having one brokerage account in which all of your money goes to, having separate brokerage accounts earmarked for different kids or grandkids kind of ensures that that money is being set aside for them for their use, even though you could use the money for any reason. So, what's the best plan? Well, it really determines on your situation. If you're planning on staying in the States, I would probably say that a 529 plan would make the most sense for you. It's what I have. I opened up a 529 plan for my son when he was 6 months old. And 11 years later, after making relatively modest contributions to it, he's got a pretty nice nest egg that hopefully, if he goes to college here in 6, 7, 8 years, well, he's going to have some money, or we'll have some money to be able to use for those college expenses completely tax free. Now, we're not planning on moving to Canada. In all likelihood, he's not going to go to college up in Canada. So it makes perfect sense for us. And if you're in that situation, probably makes good sense for you as well. If you're unsure if you're going to move back to Canada, if you're unsure if your kids are going to go to school in Canada, especially if it's a smaller school that maybe a 529 plan would not be applicable for, you may decide to just open up a simple brokerage account and start putting money away that way. Gives you, like I said, a lot of flexibility. You can move that money to Canada. If your child stays in the US, no problem. You can withdraw it and use it for college expenses there in the US as well. But it gives you a lot more flexibility than some of the other accounts. And if you don't care about college savings and you're just trying to get a head start on your kids' retirement, especially if they're younger and qualify for that $1,000 government subsidy, might as well open up a Trump account as well if they are US citizens. Yeah, my name is Brian Haggard with RetireMitten Financial. In education, savings is just one part of the financial planning process that we go through with our clients to help them create a complete cross-border financial plan. If you're interested in learning more about our services, you can schedule a time to have a complimentary consultation with one of our experienced financial advisors at the link below. Thanks. We look forward to speaking with you soon.